students, today we look into the concept of news, types of news, news gathering and writing of news. News is one of the best known commodities in today's world. Everybody who wants to understand a language and has access to mass media recognizes it. The concept of news must have existed even before the beginning of the era of mass media. Mass media in India is a part of the Indian media which aims to reach a wide audience. News by definition is an account of a recent event or opinion which is important or interesting. Kinds of news. News can be divided on the basis of contents as international news, national news, political news, accidents and disasters, news about labor, news about crime and violence, and sports news. Besides, news can be categorized on the basis of priority as hard news and soft news. Hard news is based on urgency of the news. In other words, it is immediately conveyed to the people. It should reach people immediately. Priority is given to such news in the newspaper. For example, budget, social welfare schemes, warning about cyclone and flood come under the category of hard news. Soft news is published without any urgency. It is otherwise called secondary news. People evince less interest and importance to this kind of soft news. For example, association meetings and resolutions and news about general knowledge. News can be further divided on the basis of expectation as expected news and unexpected news. Some news is expected by the people, they are waiting for such news. For example, budget proposal and parliament and state legislative news come under expected news. Unexpected news is called sudden news. Accidents happen unexpectedly, so also riots and communal clashes occur suddenly and unexpectedly. Such news is called unexpected news. Spot news. Spot news is what it says, news gathering on the spot, live, recent, immediate and fresh, with the reporter being able to say, "I was right there." Spot news is not something that was expected or scheduled. It has an element of excitement and news. There are four most commonly used methods in news gathering, which is observation, telephone conversation, research and interviews. Observation. Observation consists of your actually seeing an event take place and then reporting what you have seen in the form of a news story. Telephone conversations. The telephone plays an important role in your daily work as a journalist. It saves you time, legwork, and it often enables you to reach people who are ordinarily too busy to see you in person. Research. Research is nothing more than digging out information from files and reference works. Research is used to verify or amplify facts in news stories and to give depth to feature stories and magazine articles. Interviews. About 90% of everything in a news story is based on some form of interviewing, either in person, by telephone, or occasionally by correspondence. Types of interviews. Interviews are as varied as the people who grant them, the journalists who conduct them, and the news that suggests them. Rarely are interviews so mechanical that they can be reduced to standard formulas or categories. Several types, however, deserve special attention because they are the ones that occur most frequently. They are news interview. The news interview is based on hard news, some event or development of current and immediate interest. Telephone interview. The telephone interview, a modified version of the news interview, has a number of obvious advantages, and at the same time, it has several limitations that challenge a resourceful journalist. Casual interview. An accidental encounter between a journalist and a news source on the street or at a social gathering can often result in a tip that arouses the curiosity of a writer. A major news story may be the result after you do some digging. Personality interview. In the personality interview, an effort is made to let the reader see the appearance, mannerisms, background, and even the character of the subject. Symposium interview. From time to time, news developments of current interest require a journalist or a team of journalists to seek information not from one or two sources but from a dozen or perhaps 100 or more. In other instances, reactions and comments may result in a lively feature story. News conference. In recent years, an increasingly popular phenomenon of journalism has developed, the news conference. One of the most potent forces in the public exchange of opinion between the people and their government. The news conference has been an important source of news. News agencies in India that help in news gathering to the media. Today, India has 4 main news agencies. That is, Press Trust of India, which is PTI, is the largest news agency in India. It is headquartered in New Delhi and is a non-profit cooperative among more than 500 Indian newspapers and has more than 1,000 full-time employees. It provides news coverage and information of the region in both English and Hindi. Its corporate office is located in Sansad Marg, New Delhi, and registered office in DN Road, Mumbai. Second is Indo-Asian News Service or IANS is a private Indian news agency. The IANS was founded by Indian-American publisher Gopal Raju as the India Abroad News Service. It was later renamed the Indo-Asian News Service. The IANS has main offices located in Noida. IANS reports about India with news, views and analysis about the country across a wide range of subjects. News, features and views from the subcontinent reach subscribers via the internet. United News of India, UNI, is a multilingual news agency in India. UNI is registered as a trust under the Indian Societies Registration Act. It is owned by the group of newspapers that have bought shares to run them. Currently, it is one of the important news agencies in India, supplying news in English, Hindi and Urdu languages. Its news bureaus are present in all state capitals and major cities of India. Next is the Hindustan Samachar. This is the first multilingual news agency of India. It is run by Hindustan Samachar Cooperative Society, formed under the Cooperative Society Act. It has 23 bureaus across the country and a news headquarters in New Delhi. Next is Samachar Bharati. Samachar Bharati is a news agency based in India. It is headquartered in Bhopal and is a non-profit cooperative among more than 500 Indian newspapers. Its main focus is the production of independent news and analysis about events and processes affecting economic, social and political development. Amongst all these news agencies, PTI and UNI have made a great impact in the distribution of national and international news in India. Types of news stories. The curtain raiser. It is a story on what is likely to happen and not a report on what has happened. It raises the curtain to show what is on the stage and how the drama will unfold itself. It is based on past events and the reporter understands what is likely to come on the strength of his information on what had happened in the past. Crime reporting. There is tremendous public interest in crime stories. No newspaper can afford to ignore them without damage to its circulation and credibility. Crime reporting is a highly responsible and specialized job. In-depth reporting. Depth reporting is what makes readers aware of all aspects of a given subject by giving them all possible information, including background and atmosphere. Depth reporting treats a story with a kind of thoroughness of details and background that a 300-word story cannot. Depth reporting is simply good reporting with an eye for accuracy and detail. Advocacy or crusade reporting. The crusading understandably was for freedom. A crusade is not fought by writing one editorial or one news story. The obvious characteristics of a crusade are that it is concerned with the public good as seen by the editor. In conducting a crusade, the editor may bring all the ammunition he has to the battle: editorials, in-depth reporting, investigation reporting, even cartoons. Feature writing. A feature is expected to give the background to the news, which includes analysis, explanation, and discussion. It should document facts, possibly anticipate developments. Perception is a great gift for a feature writer who wants to make his mark as a knowledgeable person. In fact, the more of a specialist he is, the better are the feature writer's chance of selling his product. A feature becomes attractive to editors if it is timely, written by an authority, illustrated suitably. Magazines especially prefer features that can be richly illustrated. Review writing. Review writing is one of the important features of journalism today. Some readers are very interested to read review writing about books, films, and dramas. Generally, the review of a book is based on the following 3 parts. First part contains the title of the book, author's name, name of the publisher, place of availability and its full address, edition, price of the book, and the pages of the book. Second part contains the subject matter of the book. The views of the author on the subject should be clearly given. Regarding the views of the author, the review writer may point out the appreciable views and the defects of the book. Third part contains the views of the review writer. He may give his advice to the author or he may give his recommendations for the readers. Cinema review or film review. Before release, the films are screened in preview theatres for reviewers and journalists by the producers. Travelogue. A travelogue is usually a personal account of writer's visit to a city, town, which impresses from several aspects like living style, culture, civilization, heritage prevailing there. Travelogues are also helpful in understanding the people of a place and their pursuits, their philosophy of life and their concerns, their lifestyles, their plans and sorrows. One thing should be clearly understood, that these travelogues are usually biased writings of individual writer, and whatever they have written is not certainly the real truth about any destination or country. Editorial writing. The editorial page is considered as one of the attractive features of newspapers. Separate pages are allotted for editorial section in many newspapers. For example, The Hindu and Indian Express are having editorial pages. The contribution that is found in an editorial page can be divided into 3 types. They are editorial, letters to the editorial, and columns, articles, features, middles, etc. The editorial page is otherwise called opinion page in journalism. Firstly, the prime problem of the day should be chosen for editorial writing. Secondly, the editorial writer has to collect the materials connected with the editorial subject. Thirdly, in the editorial writing, the problem must be introduced in a clearest manner. The history of the problem should be mentioned, new problems should be expressed, the contrary views regarding this, if any, should be explained clearly. The writer may advise the people or the government on that problem. Finally, a critical analysis of the problem should be given in the editorial writing. Then only it is considered as a good editorial writing. Any news story that appears in a newspaper consists on a superficial look of three parts: the headline, the first paragraph, usually set in bold, and the remainder of the story. The headline is the first to attract the reader. Giving an appropriate headline is an art in itself. Choosing the length and size of the headline is to make the first choice as to its importance and relevance. The headline's message is terse, abrupt, and often startling. The whole idea is to make the reader stop and look. The headline seeks to hold attention and compel the reader to read the story. But an effective headline is not sufficient itself. A great deal depends on the first paragraph. It is called lead because it leads the rest of the story. It is also called the intro because it introduces rest to the reader. If the lead or intro is not sufficiently arresting, interest will lag and the reader's eye may wander onto another headline and another story. Hence, importance of writing the catchy first paragraph. Moving on to 5 W's and 1 H. 5 W's. Convention requires that in the lead the reporter must answer the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, why, and the 1 H, which is how. But that was in the old days. These days, it is a convention honored more in the breach than the observance. In fact, a religious observance of the convention would make a lead paragraph unwieldy and heavy. The practice nowadays is to write a lead of not more than 30 words. The former International News Service's style book instructed its staff to write the lead in 3 lines or less. Any good reporter can tell you that the news can be told effectively within these set limits. But what exactly is expected of a good lead or intro? The general points are almost universal. The intro should be appropriate for the story. The intro should make the reader want to read the rest of the story. The intro should be kept short wherever possible. The intro should normally be based on the key point of the story. The next step is to write the story. You have already given the main point of the story in that first paragraph. The remainder of the story should fall into place in a natural sequence. It is as if you have taken the reader by his hand and led him step by step in the finale. The accepted method of telling the story falls in what is called the inverted pyramid pattern. First the intro comes, then facts to back the intro, then possibly a quote, then the background to the intro, followed by more facts. The shape of the story would be as inverted pyramid. A new story. The accepted method for telling the story falls in what is called the inverted pyramid pattern. First the intro comes, then facts to back the intro, then possibly a quote, then the background to the intro, followed by more facts. The shape of the story would be an inverted pyramid. A new story. A new story has 3 parts. They are the headline, the first paragraph, the remainder of the story. The headline first attracts us. It stands out in the bold black type. It tells us quickly what the story covers. Its primary function is to attract our attention. The first paragraph or lead. It would be difficult to overstate the importance of the lead. Lead remains the primary concern of the newspaper writer. In any form of writing, the writer tries to put his best. Read any modern newspaper today and you will find that by glancing at the headlines and through each lead, you will get all the important news. A good lead is required to summarize the story for the reader. It identifies the story concerned. The inverted pyramid. This refers to the style of journalism which places the most important facts at the beginning and works down from there. Ideally, the first paragraph should contain enough information to give the reader a good overview of the story. The rest of the article expands and explains the beginning. In developing the story, the reporter will choose his words carefully, preferring short words for long ones, the familiar word for the unfamiliar one, and strong words for weak ones. To put together, there are 25 ways in which the newspaper could be published for easier reading. The beginner may not remember all, but they are a good guide to news reporting. Use short, simple words. Use more one-syllable words. Use familiar words. Use personal words. Use concrete words. Make every word work. Avoid technical words. Get rid of rubber stamp phrases. Put sparkle and freshness into simple phrases. Create figures of speech. Use intimate phrases. Use short sentences. Make frequent use of very short sentences. Use short sentences as an aid to clear thinking. Make sentence active. Use short, simple paragraphs. Use very short paragraphs for variety and emphasis. Use one idea paragraphs. Use paragraphs for action, impact and result. Write for a specific purpose. Write to one person, one human being. Talk to that person right where he is. Talk to that person in his own field of knowledge. Work with one basic idea. Write with one viewpoint. Editing can be done in so many ways. It includes preparing a piece of writing for publication, normally a piece written by another person. Publication may be a book, newspaper or other periodical like magazine. Doing the work of planning and directing the publication. Planning involves the whole work plan like length or size of the item, nature of item, display of item, time taken in editing, process of editing, arranging tools for editing. Directing involves issuing necessary instruction to subordinate staff, monitoring the work assigned to them, interacting with the production staff, controlling the quality of publication. Arranging data for computer processing related to research or survey. When you have written enough to satisfy the requirements of the assignment, all you ought to say about a given topic, it is time to put your paper through the rewriting process. If you are one of those students who compose on a word processor, you are a step ahead of the game. If not, use the process of going from handwritten text to typewritten text as one of the steps of rewriting. As you go along, some spell checkers will underline words, otherwise alert you with beeps and whistles that words are misspelled or duplicated, and you can fix those on the fly. Otherwise, don't bother with spelling here. You can catch misspelling later. But do watch for clumsy phrases in your writing and gaps in your thinking. Formatting. There can be text, abstract, references, tables, figures and legends that should be formatted so that they conform to the journal's instructions. Proofreading. Proofreading traditionally means reading a proof copy of a text in order to detect and correct any errors. Modern proofreading often requires reading a copy at earlier stages as well. A proof is a typical version of a copy or a manuscript page. They often contain typos introduced through human error. Traditionally, a proofreader looks at an increment of text on the copy and then compares it to the corresponding typeset increment and then marks any errors using standard proofreader's marks. Unlike copy editing, proofreading's defining procedure is to work directly with two sets of information at the same time. There are some alternative methods. Copy holding or copy reading employs two readers per proof. The first reads the text aloud literally as it appears, usually at a comparatively fast but uniform rate. The second reader follows along and marks any pertinent differences between what is read and what was typeset. Mutual understanding is the only guiding principle, so codes evolve as opportunity permits. Double reading. A single proofreader checks the proof in the traditional manner but then passes it on to the second reader who repeats the process. Both initial the proof. Note that with both copy holding and double reading, responsibility for a given proof is necessarily shared by two individuals. Scanning. It is used to check a proof without reading it word for word, has become common with computerization of typesetting and the popularization of word processing. Before the data in a Word file can be published, it must be converted into a format used by the publisher. The end product is usually called a conversion. The publisher is held responsible only for formatting errors such as typeface, page width, and alignment of columns in tables, and production errors such as text inadvertently deleted. To simplify matters further, a given conversion will usually be assigned a specific template. Given typesetters of sufficient skill, experienced proofreaders familiar with their typesetter's work can accurately scan their pages without reading the text for errors that neither they nor their typesetters are responsible for. So students, do you have any questions?
Ma'am, what is a byline in a newspaper?
Now that's a good question. A byline in a newspaper is the line giving the name of the article writer. The writer's name typically follows the word by. The word byline originated in the United States around the year 1926. The byline is a term used in newspaper journalism. However, the word is also further defined to recognize writers for magazine articles, internet articles, and blogs. The lack of a byline with a story article or news item indicates that the material was provided anonymously. The inclusion of a byline enhances an article's credibility by allowing the reader to question a source directly. Hope this answers your question. Any further questions? So we have come to the end of the lesson. Hope you have all understood it and hope you will all put an effort to read and study it. Thank you.